If you decide to purchase a home, your next step should be to define which purchase price might be suitable for you and how much home you can afford. In addition to the pure purchase price for the house, so-called ancillary purchase costs must also be paid. These are costs for the lawyer and notary, brokerage fees, taxes, and other costs. They are usually calculated as a percentage of the purchase price and vary depending on the area. The following table shows an example of the ancillary purchase costs for a house purchase in the USA. For example, if the purchase price is $300,000, the buyer must pay up to 2.5% or $7,500 in addition to the purchase price. If one has bought a house and has to sell it again, he has to pay up to 8.425%, which amounts to $25,275 in our example. If you decide to buy a house, the bank needs various information to check your credit worthiness. On the one hand, they will check the regular household income. For this purpose, salary statements and bank statements are necessary in order to be able to evaluate which credit amount can be granted, so that you can safely finance this with your household income. Furthermore, you must be at least 18 years old to be able to take out a loan. At the end of the loan, you should not be older than 75 years. If the loan is to continue during your retirement, for this period of time only your pension income is used to determine the loan amount. Besides the household income, the regular expenses have to be regarded as well. The reason for it is that two people with exactly the same income can nevertheless have immensely different expenses. Therefore, even if a person has a high monthly income, the ongoing expenses might still be too high in order to cover an additional loan. Furthermore, it is also considered whether the borrower can afford the rate even with any interest rate increases in the future. Therefore, the overall picture of the income and the sum of expenses should not be calculated too tightly. If there is any hint for the bank that a person might not be able to pay back the loan, the bank will either charge a higher interest or it won't be granted at all. Additionally, it should be noted in any case that a change in personal circumstances can have a serious impact on the household income. If one plans to have children for which then one parent is to remain at home, one of the two incomes would be omitted, but credit costs and other liabilities have to be paid anyway. In addition to the income and expenses, the bank will also include any other existing loans in the overall picture for the credit check. This against the background of the question of whether the borrower now and probably also in the future will be able to cover all his liabilities. For this purpose, the bank has agencies at its disposal that check and evaluate the creditworthiness of individuals. So, if a loan has not been repaid in the past or there are other negative entries with one of these agencies, the loan will either not be granted at all, reduced, or assigned with a higher interest for the bank. Some further considerations when deciding for a mortgage are the following. Value of the property. If you are looking for a mortgage where the monthly payments are calculated on an interest only or a combination of interest only and repayment, then the most you can apply to borrow is 75% of the property's value, or the purchase price if lower. However, if you decide to have your monthly payments calculated on a repayment only, you can apply to borrow up to a maximum of 95% of the property's value, or the purchase price if lower. If you are switching your mortgage from another lender to us and borrowing more than 75% of your home's value, you must take out the whole of your mortgage on a repayment. Also, if you want to borrow more than you owe on your current mortgage, the most you can apply to borrow in total is 85% of your home's value. Where your mortgage is for a new built property, one which was first occupied in its current state, whether newly built or converted, you will only be able to apply to borrow up to 80% of the property's value. If you are applying for a buy-to-let mortgage, you may be able to borrow up to 75% of the property's value, or the purchase price if lower. Borrowing is limited to 65% of the value of new built properties. Deals may be available from time to time for which different borrowing limits will apply. Furthermore, when taking out a loan, a distinction is made between a loan for an existing house or for a construction project. In the first case, the loan is secured by the building itself and the borrower pays a fixed rate for the duration of the contract. In the second case, it is usually a short-term loan for the construction of a building. Since this is considered as a more risky loan, the bank regularly charges higher interest rates for it. A mortgage is a debt instrument secured by the collateral of specified real estate property that the borrower is obliged to pay back with a predetermined set of payments. The example shows different mortgage rates depending on the purchase price, the down payment made, and the zip code of where the property is located.